success is everyone's responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of our business stakeholders within Accenture or the IT folks. It's the technology and the business folks coming together to produce these outcomes.
Hi, everyone. It's Penelope Prett, Accenture's Chief Information Officer. And I'm very glad to be here today with Mark Martynus, who leads the Applied Intelligence Technology team within the Global IT organization, as well as Mark Dineen, who leads the Applied Intelligence Delivery team at Accenture's facility at the Dock in Dublin, Ireland. Our Global IT team is driving technology-powered business transformation in support of Accenture's many businesses. And today, we're going to focus our discussion on applied intelligence. So, Mark Martynus, let's start with you. How do we define applied intelligence at Accenture? And from your viewpoint, what's our journey been so far within global IT?
Hey, Penelope, I'm happy to be here today and just looking forward to share with you and everybody else some of the insights of what we're doing internally around applied intelligence. The key thing for me is applied intelligence for us is how we use AI, automation, and analytics to derive the insights from all of our vast Accenture internal data to help empower our leaders to make data-driven decisions. We've been on our multi-year journey across all of our functions across Accenture to achieve this transformation and turning Accenture into where we want to go as a data-driven enterprise. But being data-driven goes beyond creating and deploying our insights. It's also a change in how we want to advise our business counterparts, change behaviors, drive adoptions. And so, Penelope, that's how we can realize the value out of the insights our teams work so hard to create.
Thanks, Mark. And since I have two Marks on this call, I'm going to refer to you as Mark M and Mark Dineen as Mark D. So, Mark M, can you also, while you're at it, tell us some of the things you learned as you were taking our team through this journey?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. It's been energizing. It's been stressful. All the keywords, but being in an industry where it's the forefront of the future, it's been great. And just some of the key things we've learned as we've gone about setting up our AI function of how we serve Accenture, setting the foundation to enable quick but also secure access to data. Huge point for us. One of the key learnings, we support multiple groups. So each of our functions is going to move at different speeds up the analytics maturity curve. So keeping things small, pointed, and defining successes has been important for us. But we've had numerous areas where we've been able to mature. So as we've matured, being able to industrialize how we operate, how we automate, how we rationalize, keeping focus on what's working to drive the experience has been critical for us. And Penelope, one of the things that I think often gets overlooked is how we define success. And success is everyone's responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of our business stakeholders within Accenture or the IT folks. It's the technology and the business folks coming together to produce these outcomes.
Yeah, and one of the things that you and I talk about fairly frequently, Mark M, is the need to maintain strong relationships within the business partner sector, right? Because a lot of this stuff is complicated and deep across their business. Can you tell the group a little bit about how you work with your business constituents?
Yeah, definitely. We collaborate with all the functions across the Accenture business, which was a wide-ranging business. We partner with our corporate functions such as HR, finance, marketing, legal, which has been our traditional areas of support, but also we do a significant amount of work with our teams in the field. So how do we help enable them to be, as they run smaller digital businesses in the grand Accenture, partnering with them as well. And when we work with all the different groups across Accenture, we provide an advisory industry expertise to partner on what we want the solution to be. We have an engineering function. We have a data science incubation function where we can rapidly prototype. We provide a high-end, stabilized operational platform. And as I was mentioning before, customer success of being able to define the outcomes. And for us, being able to provide a variety of different services for this to happen has been key for the business. We've been able to organize around IT, business and the capability teams with one common goal. It's not about IT or the business. It's about all the functions coming together to serve Accenture.
And now I want to dig in a little bit more specifically. Mark Dineen, you run our delivery team in Ireland. Can you talk a little bit about some of the specific projects and things that you're doing with the team, some in the past and some that we're currently working on?
Certainly, Penelope. I suppose if you think about the times we live in at the moment, risk is a key topic for organizations across the world. I suppose there's no time of uncertainty quite like there is at the moment. Two examples maybe in the area of risk. One would be contract management. So Accenture has thousands, hundreds of thousands of contracts that are written in multiple languages across more than 120 countries globally. Previously, we would have had these in a store of unstructured data, so they'd be formed in PDFs, Word documents, etc. But what happens if you have an unexpected, say, a flood in a country, or indeed a global pandemic like we've had recently? How do you identify the areas of contractual risk to an organization when these unexpected events happen? So you need to be able to search for certain legal clauses, so for instance, force majeure, but that can be written in multiple different ways because it's written by individuals. They don't all use the same keywords. So we turned to natural language processing and Elasticsearch. We created algorithms and trained them to search for specific risk clauses that Accenture was interested in. And as a direct result of that, we've actually been able to take previous manual search efforts that took thousands of man hours, and we've been able to compress those down into simple searches that take literally seconds and minutes to carry out. We did that initially for English, but what then about the 30% of non-English contracts that Accenture currently works in? So for that, we turned to translation algorithms and services that are now available freely in the market. And I have to say, it literally looks like magic when you can see one contract, say, in language A, like English, and alongside you can see the same contract coming through in Chinese or Japanese, etc. It's quite astounding. And now we're starting to look at this technology to examine our contracts for risky terms at the point where they're actually being written, so not after the event. A second example around risk might be internal audit. So obviously the function of internal audit is essential for minimizing risk to any organization. And our internal audit group has a huge job to do across more than 500,000 people across multiple countries with finite resources. They previously used end-of-life, niche, non-enterprise class software, so we worked very closely in collaboration with that group to transition them to our own internal analytics platform and our internal data lake. What that gave them the ability to do was to access and run analytic models on full-scale sets of data from multiple disparate internal systems. So what they could do in future is, instead of doing one audit plan, a static audit plan at the start of the year, they now have multiple dynamic audit plans that are reassessed throughout the year. They're able to scope their audits from a customized basis instead of using just checklists. They're able to do their analysis across the full population and not just random sampling. And then post-audit, it actually allows them to collaborate more effectively with the business to put in solutions to actually prevent issues from happening again in the future. And indeed, what we're looking at now is actually the area of predictive analytics. So again, how you can actually help prevent issues from happening and from being realized. So Penelope, they're two of the areas, for instance, that are examples that we're working in at the moment.
Thanks, Mark. And while I've got you talking, can you explain a little bit about the actual dock facility within Accenture? What makes that particular location unique?
Certainly. So the dock is Accenture's flagship R&D and global innovation center, where we make innovation real from idea through to impact. So within one building in Dublin, we have a very diverse team of over 300 cross-industry professionals from nearly 30 different nationalities. We bring design, business, and technology together to solve some of the most complex problems that our clients face today. And as well as doing it for clients, we're actually applying the same lens to ourselves and to the innovation we carry out here within Accenture CIO. Within the dock, we're united by a shared purpose to do good not just for business, but for society in general. And we do that by collaborating not just with ourselves, with a whole ecosystem of world-class companies. So that's a little bit of a flavor, Penelope, in terms of the doc.
And Mark, if I could, you and I have talked a number of times about how to make innovation available more broadly, right? How to move out of the idea phase. Can you talk a little bit about what we've learned about that specific aspect of our business along the way through our work at the doc?
So I think one of the biggest things we've learned is how to scale innovation within a large company. And that is not easy. There's no limit to the number of ideas out there, but how to get an idea and actually get it from the idea stage through to something that can deliver real tangible value for an organization, that's the difficult part. How you incubate it until it's reached a stage of maturity where it can be successfully taken on by the business as usual function of an organization, particularly a large organization of the scale of Accenture. If you think of Accenture itself, we're very solution focused. We love to jump straight to the solution. But actually in the context of innovation, that can be a problem. So some of the things we've learned have been a combination of understanding the actual problem statement up front, or as Clay Christensen would have said, the job to be done. I think it's really important to understand and test the commercial basis on which that idea will actually operate. And also to identify a sponsor who's actively and quite senior in the organization, who's willing to actively push and promote the work that's being done. Anybody can say they have an interest in something, but you actually have to have and measure an active interest from a sponsor to make things, to get them to scale. I think it's important to test the solution with end users, not just proxies for end users. And then it's how to figure out how to break all of that down into manageable chunks to right size your level of investment as you're going through. And of course, have the courage to actually stop if something isn't working. And I suppose finally, Penelope, you can still have the best idea in the world, and sometimes it's just a question of timing can also make all the difference.
Thanks for sharing, Mark. And Mark Martynus, as the leader for our Applied Intelligence Group within the CIO organization, to kind of wrap us up, can I ask you to take a look into the future and tell us where you see all this going over the next couple of years?
Yeah, Penelope, it's a fun question, challenging question, especially with how this industry is just constantly in rapid change. But a few things just to highlight. One of our big items that we're putting a heavy emphasis on is the ability to self-serve our users. So putting insights at the hands of our users, using analytics to make decisions real time, allowing our business counterparts to create their own outputs, but providing the right set of guardrails and security to help them move at pace, but also in a safe, comfortable environment. Another key element for us, and this is one I truly have a lot of emphasis on, is experiences. So we want to bring our analytics to where people already are. What we don't want to do is create a broad spread of destinations for people to go to. So I like to always say we want to bring the analytics to where you're already hanging out, and so that we can embed and you can make decisions within the actual business process that you're functioning with. But Penelope, I think the most exciting thing for me is our continued partnership with what we do internally with our applied intelligence practice that serves our clients. So as we continue our internal journey, we're going to be at the forefront of the industry with what our clients sell and being able to shape the future for Accenture to drive us to be a data-driven business.
Thanks, Mark. And to both of you, Mark Dineen and Mark Martynus, thank you very much for being with me today. Always fun and energizing to talk about this topic. And as you both note, things are rapidly evolving in this space. So I look forward to having you back soon to share updates with us.
Yeah, Penelope, thank you. I'm happy to always come back to this audience. Just a fun, energizing topic. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Penelope.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Accenture CIO podcast series on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Find the full CIO 24/7 podcast series and additional ways to subscribe at accenture.com/CIO podcast.